All right. For some examples that might be particular to our industry, some potential arts players, some usual suspects, that would be when it comes to disparate impact and disparate treatment. Staffing, artists or performers, or programming. If a policy or procedure exists whose end result is the different treatment of a people on the basis of race, color, or national origin, then that policy is in violation of Title VI. Here's a couple of scenarios. You have a local community center announces evening art classes, and this is a product of a project grant. Class tuition is based on income, pre-registration is required, and the center is centrally located to many different neighborhoods and demographics. So here's some thoughts for you to consider. Who can expect to register? Is access to the program available to all? Will certain population groups be excluded from participating? These are some things that in this scenario, some things that you might want to consider when you're evaluating your programming, and to see if any of your programs would have some possibility of having a disparate impact scenario. An additional scenario would be the local community center announces evening creative writing classes. This is also a TAC grant. Students must submit a writing example in English. Class tuition is $150 for the fall quarter. Pre-registration is required. The center is centrally located to many different neighborhoods and demographics. Thoughts to consider. Who can we expect to register? Is access available to all? Will certain populations groups be excluded? In both of these scenarios, I think you would agree that it's the second scenario that would be isolating a particular group, and the isolation comes from the fact that we have an LEP issue. It announces that creative writing classes that students must submit a writing example in English. It does not allow for students to submit in another, or doesn't give any allowance for translation or any of those things. And in this case, we have an LEP issue, which would cause a disparate impact on people whose first language is not English. In closing, I wanted to talk about some general best practices. Examine your policies and procedures with an eye toward this legislation. Remember, policies can appear neutral. It's their effect that you have to look at. Know your population demographics. Make every effort to reach out to communities who are not your usual suspects. Have a contact person who can act as an on-site Title VI coordinator. The next information is information which will be available in a PDF form and can be disseminated to board, staff, volunteers. It is a sort of a cheat sheet, if you will, on Title VI. It has some basic things about the law, about the reporting, and particularly about what it is, what's its basic context, and information on how to report civil if you feel like that there have been some violations. And remember that violations can be reported here to this agency, they can be reported to the Tennessee Human Rights Commission, or you can report them to any of the funding agencies or the Department of Justice. For example, for the Tennessee Arts Commission, our two federal funders are the NEA and the Department of Education. Thank you. If you have any questions, please see the Arts Access Program Coordinator at 532-9797.